Welcome to another episode of Ranting and Raving. Gonna have a little bit of fun with this one. As you may or may not know, depending on how much you watch the channel, I'm a huge JRPG nut. I, in particular, love the Final Fantasy series, as anyone who calls themselves that probably does. And one of the things that I love to do in video games in general, but especially in JRPGs, so some people love Souls games. They love to be challenged. They want to try to, can I beat the game without ever leveling up with the worst weapon in the game? I'm the exact opposite player. If there's a way to get so overpowered that you can one shot the final boss, I want to do it. And with that in mind, in most, again, JRPGs in general, but especially the Final Fantasy series, especially as the series, went on 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth, um, every character started to get their own ultimate weapon. And a lot of times the ultimate weapons were borderline game breaking. In particular, Squall's Lionheart in Final Fantasy VIII. You can do 200,000 plus damage, and if you got the long version of Renzozuken, almost 250. It was the best DPS in the game, bar none. Well, okay, technically Irvine and Zell actually could do more if you abused game mechanics, but it was right up there, and it was by far the best ultimate weapon in the game. And one of the best ever. The Darkblade would made things really powerful in 12, and I forget the name of a bow that was just completely busted, but that thing was kind of an exploit anyway. The point being, as the series went on, characters got these ultimate weapons, and if you did what it took to get them, most of the time it was worth it. And you got this incredibly powerful thing that made the game easier, or in a lot of cases would make some of the end game or post game or bonus bosses even possible. They were way more powerful than the final boss. In Final Fantasy X, for example, the hunts. When you start doing um, the arena bosses, and he's combining all the monsters from certain locations, or the dark eidolons and things like that, you need endgame weapons, and you need to have been through most of the sphere grid with whatever party you're using, or you can have a first strike rod on Yuna with Yojimbo, and you can go that route, whichever one you prefer. Uh, but with that said, we're going to take a look at the 5 worst final weapons in Final Fantasy history. Um, these are all a combination of what it takes to get them, how useful they are, and whether or not, in a couple of these cases, the character that you're actually using for the weapon is in any way useful at all. And so let's go ahead and take a look here. So our first candidate is Lulu's Onion Knight. Now, with weapons from Final Fantasy X, it comes with a slight caveat because once you get towards the end of the monster arena, you can actually farm up the items to craft your own versions of the ultimate weapons, and you can make, for the most part, better weapons than, like, say Nirvana or Cold Bulg, or the I think it's Murasame, or is it Masamune? I think it's Murasame for Orin, um, world champion for Waka, so on and so forth. Here's the thing with Lulu's Onion Knight. Number one, I thought getting the Sun Sigil, I think it's the sigil, not the crest, from the Chocobo race in 10 was the single most annoying thing that I had ever done in a video game. And then I had to go to the Thunder Plains. And you have to dodge 100 consecutive lightning strikes. And it's really boring and really annoying, and it's a huge pain in the ass. And unless you're doing it on an emulation with a save state, you mess up one time. By the way, saves, they don't work with it. It doesn't save how many strikes you've dodged. So you actually have to dodge 100 in a row. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. But here's the biggest reason why, other than it just being a giant pain in the ass to acquire. Here's the other reason why Lulu is on this list. Lulu is useless. Like endgame, Lulu is useless. You can max out her stats, and you can have her you can blast off 15 flares in a row. Actually, I don't think you can get to 15. I think it's like 11. I think, if I'm remembering right, is the most you can get if it's perfect. but it still doesn't do more damage than Yuna or Tidus or Waka can do. Like it's actually not close. Lulu, while a great character in the story, you're talking endgame. You're talking about being busted and overpowered. Um, Lulu basically stops being useful the moment you get to the end of, or near the end of her sphere grid, and you get the Agas, and then you immediately use black magic spheres to teach those to Yuna, who has higher magic stats and is better in every possible way, plus summoning. And you never put Lulu in the party again unless you're gonna like swap her in one time to make sure she gets EXP in a boss fight, because why not? So part of this is just because from like an end game perspective, Lulu's just not useful. But also the Thunder Plains can eat the entire bag, the entire bag of dicks. I fucking hated that. Next on the list is Steiner. So Steiner's Excalibur 2. Um, it does have better stats than Ragnarok. It technically is the best sword in the game and the best weapon in the game. Here's three reasons why this is on the list. Reason number one: by endgame, Steiner hits so hard that what weapon you put on him doesn't matter. He's dealing close to, if not completely, max damage. Especially, there's a little island you can use with sheep. You can use to power level the hell out of your characters. There's a trick with Osmos, and it like boom, like level 60 plus. Like it's easy peasy. You can get the 90s if you want. Once you get his stats that high, like he's hitting 9,999 like pretty much every time. Problem number one. So there's no reason to get this sword. Number two, again, I think it's the Ragnarok you can get from the chocographs. Perfectly fine. Very easy to hit max damage. But number three, and this is the real reason this is on the list, other than the fact that it's just kind of a pointless thing. It's a get it thing. Steiner doesn't need it. He's gonna hit so hard without it. It's basically pointless. And in 9, they really scaled down the damage. Like in 8, you have an enemy with like 10 million health in Omega Weapon, especially if you fight it at level 100. Ozma, who's, by the way, fuck that boss. I hate that asshole. Ozma has like just over 40,000 health. So tons and tons and tons of HP. Not really a thing in 9. And Steiner can still, especially when he's in trance, like he's hitting max damage. So like it's just meh. It's not really worth it. But here's the other thing. You basically have to get all the way to Hades, and I think it's like just under 12 hours of gameplay. So you have to do a speed run of the game, miss out on a good chunk of stuff, probably not have nearly as much fun as you could have, just to get a weapon that gives you barely any benefits at all. Like, it looks dope, but meh. And the process for it is it's just a complete waste of time. But it's not that it's a shitty weapon. It's just that it doesn't really give you a meaningful advantage, and it's certainly not worth doing a speed run of the game. Next on the list is Snow's Save the Queen. So here's the issue with Snow. Um, I don't hate Snow the way a lot of people do. There's only one character in Final Fantasy 13 that I hate. It's Hope. He sucks. He's trash. He's awful. God, why couldn't he have died instead of his mom? If you play the game, you get the reference. If you didn't, don't worry about it. He's just an obnoxious fucking character. But he is good in combat. But here's the problem with Snow. Save the Queen is on the list because all of the ultimate weapons in 13 work the same way. You accumulate resources, you save up a bunch of guild, you can upgrade any of their weapons to eventually get to its ultimate form. You don't have to find it, you don't have to craft it. I mean, you kind of craft it, but really you're just upgrading it. And you have to farm the stuff you need to upgrade it. So all of the ultimate weapons are supremely gettable. Here's why it's a complete waste of time and one of the worst ultimate weapons. Snow is the best sentinel in the game. He's a really, really, really good tank. Fang is a slightly worse sentinel. Hits way harder, is way better as a medic. Or not way better as a medic, he's okay there, but like Ravager, Saboteur, both kind of meh. I'm forgetting, it's been a while since I played, I'm forgetting the other class. Here's the long and short of it is, Fang is everything Snow is good at. Fang is better at, except he has slightly more HP and slightly better defense at endgame. There's absolutely no reason to use Snow ever once you unlock the full party because Fang is better at pretty much everything, and Snow's really only good at one thing, which is just, get aggro and take tons of damage. Like, Snow's very good at not dying. That's about it. So it's a massive resource dump. Like, farming up ultimate weapons in Final Fantasy 13 is a huge grind. It's on this list, and it's as high as it is because Steiner, you're talking diminishing returns, but at least technically the ultimate weapon does work and you will hit harder with it. And Steiner absolutely is a great character to have in your party at any point in the game because he hits so damn hard. There's really no reason to use Snow, so you have a giant pain in the ass for a basically useless character who people also happen to find annoying. That's why you're on the list. Next on the list is Selfie's Strange Vision. So, like I mentioned Final Fantasy VIII earlier, Final Fantasy VIII has, obviously the Lionheart, which is one of the coolest looking ultimate weapons ever, no question. It's super or limit break, however you want to call it, that comes off of it. One of the best ever, like in the history of the franchise. It's like Omni Slash, but better. Um, and then you have Selfie. So again, Selfie Strange Vision is on this list for two reasons. Well, really, honestly, one reason. There's no reason to level up any gear on Selfie ever because there's no reason to use Selfie except for one scenario ever. And because of the junction system, you can junction Selfie with spells to get all of her stats to cap. Not that you need it, because the literal only reason to ever use Selfie, ever, is if you're doing a Holy War Aura strategy on the final boss or a mega weapon or like any of the mega bosses in the game where it's just like, this, I'm gonna use the end. Because Selfie's limit break is that she can go through a series of random events. She's gonna cast Flare, or she's gonna cast Ultima, or she's gonna cast Triple, so on and so forth. And you can keep recycling it. Well, eventually you can get an option that pops up called The End. And that's literally what it does. It's Yojimbo from 10. It is, this fight's over. She hit the end. If it's a multi-phase boss battle, it goes to the next phase instantly. So, depending on when you use it against Ultimecia, it is either useful or not. If it's against Omega Weapon, oh my god, I'm level 100 and I didn't do a low-level run because I actually enjoy playing the game. Hi, that's me. And I don't feel like doing a 40-minute fight. The end. He's dead. Bye, Omega Weapon. That's it. There's no reason to get her ultimate weapon at all. It's a complete waste of resources, a complete waste of time. She's a terrible character. She's annoying as hell. She's, in my opinion, like top 3 most annoying Final Fantasy character ever. And then beyond that, she's not good in combat. Her limit breaks stink. Her stats aren't good. Her weapon, it's useless. She exists, especially at endgame, for the end and nothing else. The weapon doesn't affect it, so she is number 2 on the list. But she is not the most useless character of all time, and that is why we are talking about Cait Sith and HP Shout. Cait Sith is the most useless character of all time. Yes, he technically kind of sort of has a use due to the plot. I mean, not kind of sort of. Like, he matters in the grand scheme of the plot, but that's it. But as far as combat is concerned, here's a problem with Cait Sith. HP Shout sucks. His stats suck. Like, Vincent, Tifa, Cloud. There's your final party. The end. Like, I mean, you want to use Sid, you want to use Barrett, you want to use Red 13, you want to use Yuffie. That's fine. Knock yourself out. But it's Cloud, Tifa, Vincent. Like, there's your best final party. If you were going to use him, and if you pop the limit break, you might not know this. And if you did know this, I hope you don't know it because it actually happened to you and you just know it because the internet told you it. So, the way that Cait Sith's limit break works is he does a series of reels. And there is a combination of reels that happens for his limit break where he can kill your fucking party. So he is without question the most useless, worst final weapon ever, because not only does the weapon not do much, not only do his stats stink, but if you're using this character and you use his limit break, he can literally kill your whole party. You can't top that for trash. Now, if you like to troll yourself, or again, if you do challenge runs and things like that, that's fine. Knock yourself out, have a good time. The thing with video games is, like any form of entertainment, do what you enjoy. So I'm not judging anybody if they like to do, Nuzlocke or hard runs or speed runs or anything like that. But right now we're looking at the worst final weapons in the history of Final Fantasy, and in many of these cases, the weapon is also tied to the character and the performance that it gives to the character. And Cait Sith is the worst party member in the history of all time. As much as I hate Hope, he's actually useful in the game. Cait Sith stinks. He can wipe your party. There's no reason to ever take the time, effort, and energy to get this guy's ultimate weapon unless you just kind of happen to grab it. Oops. But even then, why would you equip it? He should never be in your party. It doesn't matter what you have equipped on him. What is wrong with you? So, with that said, those are my 5 worst final weapons in the history of Final Fantasy. If you disagree with any of these, if you agree with them, if you have your own combination, or even if you just have topics, whether they're more nerdy topics, video games, JRPGs, anime, manga, sports related, which is what a lot of the content on the channel is. Feel free to leave it in the comments section. I have a obnoxious number of opinions on things, so I'm more than happy to share them. I'm more happy to talk about topics that weren't just of my own creation. And with that said, if you enjoy the content, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. It's very much appreciated when you guys support the channel. Hope to hear from you soon, and we'll be coming with you with again more topics that I find fun, and also more Saints content coming here over in the near future.